Welcome back, everybody. Dwayne Patterson filling in for Hugh Hewitt. I have probably solved, along with my following guest, off air, the entire world's problems, probably at least a couple of dozen times over the last few years. At least that's how our phone conversations go off air. We'll see how we do on air in this 6 minutes. I'm joined by Jim Talent, former Missouri Senator and of the Bipartisan Policy Center, a good friend of the program and a good friend of mine. Jim, welcome back to the show. Good to have you on with me for a change. Oh, you're muted. We'll get you off mute here in just a second, hopefully.
Okay.
There you are. Okay, you're back. I got you.
People like me better when I'm muted. Yeah, we have solved the problems, Dwayne. So how come they persist? I mean, I don't understand it.
I blame Adam Schiff entirely. Look, your senator Josh Hawley is Tuesday night at a gathering. Said he's going to introduce a bill to ban the TikTok app in the United States, a move that I wholeheartedly endorse and support and wish it would take hold. At the same time, the recently deposed chairman of the House Select Committee on Intel, Adam Schiff, goes onto TikTok last night to fundraise and whine because he got booted off of House Intel by Kevin McCarthy. Jim,
Yes.
What do you make of that?
There are always ironies to comfort us, aren't there, Dwayne? Yeah.
Aren't there?
We all know TikTok is an agent for the Chinese government to penetrate networks.
Spy, to gather intelligence.
Americans,
yes.
Exactly. And here a fellow's going on TikTok to complain that he's not on the Intel committee. I mean, you really can't make it up. I have an old friend who says you got to laugh or cry in situations like this. No, look, I mean, it's not as I said to you about a month ago, this back and forth about taking people off committees, although, Schiff abused the processes of the committee, which is a separate thing. This is not an ideal solution. The better custom is to allow the minority to pick its own members of the committee because it's an internal matter and they should have control over internal matters. But customs have to be customary. Norms have to be normal. And if the other side is not going to follow them and they want to go into the law of the jungle, then that's basically what you have to do when you take control.
There has to be a price paid for what Nancy Pelosi did.
But you can't run a body where you're the leader of one party and when the other side is in, they do things to you. And they won't admit that was wrong, and they won't say they're not going to do it again. And then when you get in, you respect the norms. I mean, that just doesn't work. So I think this is probably the least McCarthy could do under the circumstances. And, let's hope that we get back to a situation where the parties are able to control their own committee members because the House will work better, and I think the people will be served better.
Do you have any prospects that Hakeem Jeffries will sit down and meet with Kevin McCarthy and hammer out some kind of a deal like, okay, you got us, you got even, let's strike a peace here?
I think what McCarthy is handling this in a smart fashion because, you see what he's done with the Select Committee on China. Where
yes.
He and Gallagher both have moved, I think, very effectively to make that bipartisan. So if you have one area, and bipartisan doesn't mean anybody that you stop fighting or you don't have your convictions. It just means you respect the legitimate rights of the other side. So if you get that in one area of policy or activity for the House, then you have a building block to move to other areas. So, and Jeffries is new. He can chart his own course. And I have no doubt that McCarthy is trying to talk to him. And I suspect that Jeffries is at least having some discussions about this. I'd like to see it. We can do everything we want to do. In fact, do it better and more effectively, running the House in a way that respects everybody's rights.
I agree with that. Jim Talent, as long as we're talking about committees and how they're kind of staffed, we started to get that news this week of who's going to be on what committees. I had to get a smile on my face because the irony bug bit in the weaponization committee, select committee of Jim Jordan. You look way at the bottom of Republicans of who's going to be on that committee, and at the very end of that, there is a at-large Congress critter from Wyoming named Hegeman who replaced somebody recently that was from that state. Who did she replace again? Cheney, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so now she's on this committee, and it's a really important committee. I'm glad they're
Of
doing
course it
it.
is.
I say this as a person who I think Dwayne. I'm still a very strong supporter of robust intelligence collection and a strong supporter of the Bureau during my time in office. But it's
Sure.
really clear that the top levels of the Bureau have been politicized and compromised, and this is exactly something that the House needs to do. I mean, going back to the baseless investigation of Trump for the Russia stuff, based on a memo they knew was false. Okay, to the suppression of the Hunter laptop, what the Twitter files have shown,
Yep.
the Bureau is getting involved in directly involved in partisan politics in the guise of domestic counterterrorism and police activity, and that simply cannot be permitted. And what I would like to see Jordan do is say, look, this committee is going to operate in the service of the truth. We're going to follow the facts wherever they go, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may, and we're going to find out the truth, and we're going to document it. And I think if he does that, it could be a very important effort.
From your lips, Jim Talent of the Bipartisan Policy Center, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah,
Read
always
everything
good.
at Jim Talent on Twitter and at the Bipartisan Policy Center. Dwayne Patterson in for Hugh. Back after the top of the hour break.